Ryan Salazar here with Broadcast Beat Magazine. We've got a special guest, Alex Grossman, Vice President of Media and Entertainment at Quantum. We know him very well. How you doing, Alex?
I'm doing fantastic. How are you today?
Doing great here in Fort Lauderdale. So where are you located at?
I'm in Los Angeles, the heart of media.
Oh man, jealous. So tell us about Quantum and what you guys are doing at the 2015 IBC show.
Okay, yeah, it sounds great. So Quantum's got a really exciting presence at IBC this year, and we've got a lot to show. And we've been busy all year, really working at building this, if you want to call it, great workflow optimized storage approach. And we're really going to show it off at IBC. I'll give you a little information about it so you have an idea of what we're talking about when we use this term workflow optimized storage. People always say, what the heck is that? Well, it's really kind of and I'll use all these little catchphrases that everyone does, but it's unique, it's cost effective, and it's highly efficient. And what we really mean by that is that we've taken a look at the way storage has grown for broadcast and broadcast production. And what we've seen is that there's been a real mix of what I would consider old proprietary solutions alongside these generic IT solutions. And then in the middle, you end up with some non-proprietary, maybe media optimized solutions in there, and you kind of glue it all together and you try to have a complete pipeline. You just try to make your pipeline work. And for the most part, nothing really talks to itself. You have a lot of connector pieces of software to get it going. And then in today's world, we find that the media asset managers have really become production management tools, and they're not they're not really just media asset managers anymore. They tend to drive your production from ingest all the way through delivery and then into archive. And so if you're going to have those tools, you should have a storage system underneath that really understands the way everything works. And so what we've done is we've coined this term workflow optimized storage, and we built it on what we call the StorNext 5 platform. You're familiar with the StorNext 5 platform?
Yes, I am. And I'm actually on your website right now and checking out everything. I know you guys say StorNext 5 scale out storage. And I was just going to ask you, when you say scale out storage, is it literally like you just pop new storage in?
Yeah. So the idea of scale out storage is kind of a generic term that people have used in storage for a long time to really say, am I locked into a piece of storage or a workflow stage, or can I use storage across all the workflow stages? So what we've done and the way we've worked on that from a scale out standpoint is we've said we have a virtually unlimited amount of storage capacity that you can use depending on the stage of your workflow, and an unlimited amount of performance that you have depending on the stage of your workflow. So in tying this back to the whole idea of workflow optimized storage, we broke the workflow into a few stages. So ingest, work in process, and all the individual stages inside of work in process, then delivery, and then of course that big piece that's ongoing for monetization, which is archive. And so we focused on those stages of workflow, and we optimized the storage in there, allowing you to scale for the size of your facility or the work that you do. So for instance, if you're going to do a lot of ingest of content, today all the content's digital. So what you really want to do is you want to be able to quickly ingest the content, put it in a safe repository so you have what we would call an archive on ingest, but then also quickly get it to work in process. And more people are working with high definition and high resolution content coming in. And so you have to go through a certain number of transcode stages and QA stages in order to get it into a mezzanine format and a proxy format, but you want to save all the raw content somewhere else. And so what we've tried to do is we've tried to look at the stages of the workflow, and actually 3 stages of workflow are involved in today's ingest. And ingest today is somewhat of what we call a non-real-time operation, meaning that even though we want it to happen quickly, it's not real-time driven, meaning it's not a timeline operation. So what happens is you actually involve 3 things. You involve a volume that you're going to ingest into, storage you're going to ingest into, which is what you're going to work on. We call that work in process. But before you go there, you need to do 2 things. You need to archive it off in raw, and you need to do a series of operations like transcoding and QA and they end up in an ingest volume before they come in your work in process. And what we've done is we've automated the process so that all that is done and there's complete visibility to the media asset manager, so that all the metadata that you actually contain, usually at the shoot or when you get, a lot of times you're acquiring content from different places, it has metadata. You bring all that metadata and drive it through so you have that associated with the content, and that's what the media asset managers or the production asset managers usually work on. And so we've taken those stages of the workflow and we've optimized each one of those stages with storage, but across the top of it, we have StorNext 5, which is the content management layer that knows how the storage should work, what the performance levels of the storage are, what the capacity levels are, and to ensure that it's a seamless operation. Then once you get it in work and process, you have many other operations you're going to do, all the way from editing to color correction to audio sweetening. A lot of effects have to happen, and that requires a certain amount of performance in the storage as well. And we've optimized storage in there. In fact, we have a couple different types of storage that we use to get the best optimization in work and process. And you can say to yourself, well, I can just scale that to put a lot of storage in work and process and it's going to be fast enough. Well, what we did is we said, the problem with that is that ad hoc growth of your work in process storage to manage all this stuff gets really expensive. And so what we said is that if we have assets that aren't going to be used in work and process, let's put them in a repository that we call Extended Online, which is lower cost storage, high availability, very safe storage. And then what we're going to do is we're going to shrink the amount of online storage that you use, because that's where all the cost is. And we're only going to put a small amount of online storage. Easier to manage it, easier to have visibility in it. And since we can move the storage back, or we can move the content and the assets back and forth kind of auto-magically within the workflow, and we let the MAM help us do that, we're able to optimize the storage throughout, lower the overall cost, and make it more efficient. That's kind of the way we scale it. The other piece of this that's interesting is that once you deliver, you're using the same type of tools to deliver that you're using to ingest. You're transcoding on delivery, right? You're having to do that. You're doing QA steps on delivery. So that same extended online storage that we use as a repository for the raw content, we also use for delivery. So all those operations happen out of that storage as well, but it's tied completely seamlessly to your work in process. And that saves you an incredible amount of money and time. And then, of course, the last step, of course, is archive, because we care about the monetization going forward. And we actually have several, in fact, Quantum as a company has been very well known for archive for years. We have several different archive options that, of course, we're going to show a lot of these at IBC. But these different archive options come from object storage, tape, even disk storage. But we have today also QCloud Archive, which allows us to seamlessly put things up into the public cloud. And you'll notice I use this term seamlessly a lot, because that's really what StorNext 5 is all about. It's about taking the human element where you can make a mistake in the workflow, or you have to think about how things happen in the workflow, and automating these pieces for you so that the operations happen consistently every single time in your workflow, and you're safe and secure. You let the workflow get out of the way so that you can do the creative bits. Does that make sense?
Oh, definitely, definitely. And let me ask you this, I'm just out of curiosity. So how do clients connect to the StorNext system?
That's a great question. So there's always been the Fibre channel high-speed interface that StorNext is well known for, and you could call that the SAN. And that's always been there, and we still maintain high-speed Fibre channel for a lot of operations that require it. In fact, as people are doing more 4K, multiple stream, Fibre channel is the key. But in StorNext 5, we made IP connection an equal citizen as well. So today you have a couple choices. You can use Fibre channel for those high speed areas that you need to have, such as nonlinear editing at multiple streams of high resolution content. We also have IP connectivity. So in some cases it's standard Ethernet using SMB, CIFS, NFS sharing, and that works across Macs and PCs and Linux. and you can share in that way equally as well as you can with Fibre Channel, understanding that the performance is going to be dictated by the interface spec. The third way, and actually there's 4 ways now I think about it, the third way of doing that is actually through what we call the DLC client. And DLC is something that stands for Distributed LAN Client. It's a quantum technology. Think of it as taking the benefits of Fibre Channel and putting them across Ethernet with a format that we develop. So it's a protocol that Quantum's developed. And in the past, up until just recently, that was available on Windows and Linux. So if you had high-speed transcode or rendering activities, you didn't need to do full editing, you could easily put DLC clients as long as you're using Windows or Linux. If you had some editing that needed to be done, but let's say it wasn't, multiple streams of high resolution, you were doing proxy editing or a low mezzanine format, you could use DLC for that. But recently, we've announced, actually Apple's announced this, but we support it. Apple has their own DLC client that will be included in their next version of the operating system called El Capitan, which we hope is going to be released very soon. And that will be fully supported by Quantum. Now, the beauty of the DLC client, just like the Xsan client, we're the only ones who are 100% compatible with that. So you can have an Xsan environment and an environment where you're also having clients on Ethernet connection, IP connection, and you can use the DLC client or the Fibre Channel client and connect right into StorNext. That fourth way of doing it is through our extended online, which is actually through HTTP REST. And that REST interface, sometimes people call it the S3 interface as well, is where we can take our extended online, which is object storage based, and we can allow the Media Asset Manager to export the object IDs, which means you get access across your browser of your content. So you can actually get your assets and your content directly, remotely, in a fashion that feels like the cloud, and it actually is a private cloud. So StorNext has come a long way. We did that almost 3 years ago now, actually November 2013, so about 1.5 years ago actually, but it took us about 3 years to do it. But performance and capabilities, just beyond belief of where we were. If you were to compare it to where we were just a couple of years ago, you'd go, this is just incredible. And we optimize the performance not only on the production side, but also on archive to add options like QCloud archive, seamless archive to the cloud, object storage, seamless archive to that. And of course, we increase tape performance with LTFS, and very soon we'll have LTO7. So a lot of choices for people, depending on where your workflow is today, where you want to go, 100% open with Quantum.
Excellent. And I just saw, Alex, on your website, it says visit you guys at the IBC 2015 Hall number 7B26. So Hall 7B26. That's excellent. Again, Alex Grossman, Vice President of Media and Entertainment at Quantum. Thank you so much, Alex.
Thank you. Have a great day.